Before you enter these halls, heed warning. Tonight's chilling tales are not for the faint of heart. All who enter must be prepared to explore stories of darkness, mystery, the macabre, and all the darkest parts of humanity. If tales of true crime, the paranormal, or other creatures that go bump in the night unsettled you, turn back now. This is not the place for you. For those of you brave souls who stayed, welcome to Dark Academy. I'm Kristen, and I'll be your guide. Grab your candle and follow me to our haunted library of horror. Please come over to the fireplace. Welcome back to the Midnight Library Circle, where we meet to discuss all things horror. Yes, movies, but mostly to lead us into some paranormal and true crime stories. Before we proceed, with any movie, there's always a chance for a spoiler. If you have not seen this movie or are simply uninterested in this part, skip forward to get to the actual stories. This is just a short part of the episode. Now, on to Annabelle. I survived. First and foremost, let's get this out of the way. If you don't already know, I hate dolls. They're creepy. Why anyone would want to collect them as an adult is incomprehensible to me. If you collect them, you're a psychopath. I said what I said. This woman in this movie had giant porcelain dolls. Little porcelain dolls can murder you with their little hands and a knife. Why would you get a big one that you have to fight? It just doesn't make sense. This story was so slow in the beginning. Terrible music, like an 80s or 90s made-for-TV movie. It did pick up a little after the neighbors were killed by their previously missing daughter and her boyfriend. They were part of some dark Satan-worshipping cult, which I'm beginning to wonder if any really exist, or if they're just that good at hiding. It could be either, I guess. The second the main characters, John and Leah, decided to go check it out instead of call the cops, I knew shit was about to go down. Then, Leah walks away from her house with her door open. What are you doing? All sorts of horror mistakes that allow these stories to go on. She gets her consequence almost immediately, though. The killer/neighbor's daughter, named Annabelle, and her boyfriend are inside, and then they attack her. The cop comes and shoots the boyfriend, and then Annabelle kills herself, and her blood drops into the doll's eyes. It's like, ew, creepy. Annabelle is now in that doll. I wonder if you were to dip her into high-potency bleach, if she would be gone. I mean, I would try it. Anyway, Annabelle becomes a problem. She's a doll. Who's surprised? I'm not. They throw her in the trash outside. She somehow comes with them to their new home. It's a little shocking how quickly John agrees to the possibility of movers digging a doll out of the trash to pack it in a box to move. But I guess it's easier to think that than a doll walked into a box on its own, so I'll give him that. The part that I found creepy, like it actually gave me chills, was when there was some random little girl in the nursery. Like, who is this? Kids are already scary. She's running. Then the door closes, but she busts through it, turning into the adult Annabelle. Look, y'all, I just didn't expect her to get that big that fast. Then at some point, there's a demon haunting the doll too. I know they said Annabelle and her boyfriend did some sort of ritual to summon the demon, but it's like Annabelle and the demon are in the doll. And I thought the doll would be the scary monster, but they always had one of them carrying her. Like, she looks disturbed, but she never really does anything on her own. It would have been better if the doll were the monster. Maybe they thought that would be a little too cheesy. Or they were just showing that this is who was actually in the doll. I don't know. But the whole part about the demon wanting someone's soul is weird to me. Annabelle and her boyfriend were there. They were the ritual people. Why didn't they count as the souls? Leah didn't summon the demon, and why did Alfred have to die? She's a treasure. She should always be a final girl. By the way, I love her in the New Salem's Lot. I know I'm one of the few who actually like the movie, but for another day, leave me alone. Overall, I like the movie pretty good. It was a little choppy, and the whole doll is not the real monster part sucked, but I'm a broken record at this point, I know. But overall, the story was pretty good. Worth the watch, I think. Or don't. You won't be better or worse for it. So, let's talk about Annabelle. The real Annabelle. Because if you didn't know, Annabelle is based on a true story. Except, the real Annabelle looks much less concerning at first sight, which in my opinion makes it a little more terrifying. She's one of many Raggedy Ann dolls popular throughout the 1900s. As I said, I don't like dolls, but I wasn't scared of her. I even dressed up as her one year, using clothes right off the doll. So who is Raggedy Ann, Gen Z may ask? She was a character created back in the early 1900s by Johnny Gruelle, an American artist, political cartoonist, children's book and comic author, illustrator, and storyteller. She was his most successful creation, deriving her name from poems of a James Whitcomb Riley, the writer of Little Orphan Annie. So let's get into the origins of Annabelle, the haunted Raggedy Ann doll. As I said, she's not the crazy-looking porcelain doll depicted in the movie. In 1970, 28-year-old nursing student Donna received the doll as a gift from her mother. Strange occurrences began almost immediately. The doll allegedly moved positions and rooms when no one was watching. Donna and her roommate Angie would leave her in one position and later find her in a different one. She would even end up in a totally different room sometimes. They even had notes written on parchment paper. "Help me" and "Help Lou." We'll get into who Lou is in a minute. A blood-like substance was found on the doll's chest and hands. Who did you go murder, little doll? They were getting freaked out, so they called a medium to perform a seance. I feel like this is counterproductive, but who am I? I've also never had a doll I thought was haunted, so I don't know what I would do. Anyway, the medium said it was a little girl, Annabelle Higgins, who died on the property and just wanted to stay and hang out with the girls. Well, they felt sorry for her, so they allowed her to stay. Big mistake. And their friend Lou thought it was, because he had experiences he attributed to the doll. He had a nightmare where the doll was on his neck strangling him, but he woke up still feeling restrained, leading him to think it wasn't a dream at all. He also said he was attacked by an invisible force. His chest was burning, so he checked it and found scratches that ended up healing quickly. I would never stay at their house again. This caused Donna to contact a priest who told her to call Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed and Lorraine did interviews and observations. Given the entity was attached to an object and was harmful, they believed the medium was deceived and that it was a made-up story of a little girl just wanting company. Deception, harm, and attachment apparently means demon, not human spirit. The Warrens decided to take the doll away to their haunted artifact museum. According to the Warrens, they were having car trouble when driving Annabelle home, so they had to pull over and put holy water on her. When they got her home, they originally put her in Ed's office, but they claimed she levitated and moved throughout the house. So they decided to put her in a locked building outside the main house, but when she showed up in the house, they realized they needed a more permanent location. So the Warrens had a special case made for her. It had the Lord's Prayer and the St. Michael's Prayer inscribed inside. On it, it states, "Warning, positively do not open." Ed would also periodically do a binding prayer. Even with her in there, visitors have reported the case shifting or the glass vibrating as though she were trying to escape. Some have even felt sick around her. Others say that accidents that followed their visit there were her fault. Even a priest blames her for nightmares and got into an accident after visiting. And then the biggest one is this guy was disrespecting her by tapping on the glass and daring her to hurt him, and he died in a motorcycle accident after leaving. We know all this information from his girlfriend, who was also on the motorcycle but survived. Annabelle still resides in the Warren Museum in Connecticut. From what I could find, the museum is not open to the public due to zoning issues, but a select few can visit. If you watch any paranormal show, you've seen somebody there. I was going to talk about the possibility of satanic cults at the time of the real Annabelle, but all I could find was speculation. I also considered going into the Church of Satan, but they seem to be more concerned with political rebellion rather than truly worshiping a dark lord. That was boring. So instead, we're going to talk about a few more haunted dolls. Canada has an Annabelle in the sense that she's just as famously haunted. This woman was gifted a doll by her grandmother. It's an adorable vintage doll made around 1900. Who wouldn't want that? Not a lot is known about when exactly she received the doll or how long she had the doll or where the doll even came from. I only saw the woman's name in one place, so I'm not sure this is her actual name, but we're going to go with it since I don't have another one. Miranda was laying in her bed when she heard a baby crying from downstairs. She had a young child, but not a baby. So where was it coming from, and who was it coming from? She decided to go check it out, but found no baby. Nothing. Only an open window. This happened multiple times. For some reason, she thought of the baby doll in the chest in the basement. For some reason, something felt off about it. She didn't want to take any chances with the doll because she had a small child, so she decided to take it to the Quesnel Museum in Quesnel, British Columbia. They agreed to take Mandy the doll. Why do these museums always agree to take haunted stuff? Is it because they just don't have to take it home with them? Anyway, Miranda had no further hauntings at her house, so obviously it's the doll. At the museum, Mandy began acting up immediately. They had to take her picture for archival, and I'm not sure if this was the issue, or if the fact that they left her alone overnight. But they returned the next morning to a trashed lab where they left her. Miss Miranda, I need you to come get your demon doll. The museum stored her in a locked glass case, but she still caused problems somehow. Things would go missing in the museum. I mean, it was lunches and stuff, and so they thought, it's possible that they just were absent-minded, but it couldn't all be that. There were things that were unexplained, so they figured it had to be Mandy. Visitors reported seeing her eyes follow them. They tried storing her with other dolls, but she didn't like it. There's not a lot of information about this, so I'm not really sure why they thought that she didn't like the other dolls, but I read that they think that she's going to harm them. What, are the other dolls haunted as well? Like, what could she do to harm them? I mean, maybe they're just really valuable and she thought she would maybe break them or something. I don't know. Anyway, they had to move her away from the dolls, and they put her in the children's activity area. Could you imagine? Like, my kid's not going in that activity area. But is it possible that Mandy thinks she's human and she doesn't like dolls? And she's like, why would you put me in here? So the museum staff must agree or thought the same thing because they gave her a stuffed lamb to comfort her. But I don't think Mandy liked the lamb either because the staff found the lamb under the locked case one day. Either that or she was walking around with it and, forgot it. I don't know. So maybe Mandy isn't a child at all and felt patronized by being given a children's toy. Mandy demands respect. She is not a child. But she was famous for a while. Featured in newspapers, radio, and TV shows. And now podcasts and YouTube and other social media apps. She was on the Montel Williams show where psychic Sylvia Brown said she thought Mandy was the spirit of a mom's grief over losing her twin daughters to polio. Now, Sylvia was famously wrong many times, but I don't know enough about her and her practices, so I don't want to speak ill of the dead, so let's just move on. There's a movie about her, but it got bad reviews. But I may watch it anyway, because I'm a rebel like that. Mandy's still at the Quesnel Museum. Our next doll haunts Australia and our screens, because when I looked it up, I had quite a reaction. I was like, no. Brisbane resident Carrie Walton was visiting the town of Wagga Wagga and obviously has the same dark interests we do. He explored an abandoned house known to be haunted. Would you do it? He found an old wooden doll in the house. Creepy, old-looking doll. And he decided it was a good idea to take it home. Why, Carrie? Why? On the drive home, the doll appeared to move every time the car headlights passed by. I'm turning around and that doll is going right back to that house. When he arrived home, his family had bad feelings about the doll. Even the family dog hated him, started barking at him. Once he was there, objects in the house started to move around. Doors would open and close. Even the doll would move or be moved, sometimes in front of others. I can't imagine you get too many people to come back to your house. Because of all of this, Carrie decided to find out more about the doll he called Letta. Like, Letta Me Out, I guess he's saying that maybe whatever's in the doll wants to be let out of the doll. He took him to the Australian Museum in Sydney. Experts believe the doll had been sitting in the haunted house for about 60 to 70 years, but is over 200 years old. And they believe it was created in Romania or somewhere else in Eastern Europe by gypsies. Though most prefer to be called Roma or Romani people now. Gypsy is considered derogatory. I went down this whole rabbit hole learning about the Romani people and the hate and persecution they had to endure for well over half a millennia. And even today. I'm trying to keep these episodes to a minimum though, so I won't go into too many details, but I am going to go into some. So when they arrived in Europe, people thought they were refugees from Egypt, giving them the name gypsies. They were nomadic, rarely stopping for more than 30 days. People looked down upon them. European countries began expelling them from their countries with threat of death. Some took them in as slaves, including Vikings and Catherine the Great in Russia. Some were deported to colonies. Did you know in World War II the Nazis tried to get rid of them along with the Jews, killing between 1.5 to 2 million of them? Why have we never heard this? At least I haven't. Maybe I'm just uneducated. They had a stereotype of being palm readers and fortune tellers. And some were, but not all of them. I'm giving you this history lesson to let you know that most of what we know about Romani people comes from observations from people who did not like them. Have you ever had a rumor passed around about you by people who didn't like you or really didn't know you? You know how inaccurate those biases can be? Carrie, he went on this show called The Extraordinary, which seems like a pretty cool show, but the host claimed the gypsies put the spirit of his son in the doll, a son who died by drowning. While I try not to look back in history and judge the intent of people based off of different views and understandings of the time, this is based off prejudicial assumptions that should be taken with a grain of salt. An American psychic is where the father and drowning boy theory comes from. Since there's no specific person named, there's no harm in this theory, really. It's the part about a gypsy charming a doll that's the problem. A fellow Brisbane resident and psychic, Keisha, did a seance that led her to believe the drowning story too. I guess Carrie trusted Keisha because he let her take him to a shopping center to tell an audience about him, kind of like an exhibition of sorts. When the curtains opened, some screamed. One woman passed out, and someone else got sick. Letta obviously didn't like the attention. She took him to be on a show, but he obviously didn't like that either. He was squirming in her lap like an uncomfortable child. This really freaked Keisha out because she had never experienced that before. The cameraman heard her say something about it and started making fun of her. So Letta's head creaked as it turned toward the cameraman and a bulb blew. Both Keisha and the cameraman saw it. So like I said, Carrie went on that TV show, The Extraordinary. He was telling a story about when he considered selling Letta. He had agreed on a deal of $400. When he went to take Letta to the buyer's car, he just couldn't. He felt like Letta was begging him not to. So he didn't. But when telling this story on the show, a light blew. So that's why it seemed like Letta did not like reliving such a traumatic moment. This doll is very haunted, but he seems pretty harmless. He must be charming in some sense. Keisha, as well as Carrie and his family, seem fond of the doll and do not want to get rid of it. They seem like they want to protect it. That's not something you see too often. I know Robert the doll's owners seem to do that too, but it was usually just one person at the detriment of others. Letta just looks scary. If you'd like to be charmed by Letta, he's on social media. You can find him at Letta Me Out on both Facebook and Instagram. He posts fairly often there, so you'll be entertained. Well, that's it for the dark and chilling tale of haunted dolls Annabelle, Mandy, and Letta. Now, it's time for our final fright. Obviously, we're going to talk about why we're afraid of dolls. The fear is called pediophobia. Sounds like you're scared of pedophiles or something, but it's because the pedio comes from small child. It's part of a larger fear called, automatonophobia, which is a fear of inanimate objects that look like humans or simulate us. I can relate to that as well. I don't like mannequins either, or ventriloquist dummies, or wax statues, animatronics, and. Just something is not right. I hate them and they scare me, but in the grand scheme of things, my actual phobia isn't that bad. I do react. Like, I may or may not have cried as a grown adult when my cousin's daughter put a porcelain doll on my face to show me how pretty she was. I will not confirm. I do get anxious, but I do not have extreme anxiety around them. I am able to self-talk and calm down before anything gets bad. Like with previous phobias we discussed on past episodes, the anxiety symptoms can get really bad. They supposedly come from traumatic events. I can definitely think back to some situations, but I was born this way. There's a picture of me actively moving around a doll, careful not to touch it, while I was trying to walk along the side of our couch. So, before I could walk. But my cousin making haunted houses with dolls and multiple freaky movies where toys come alive, and I'm not talking about Toy Story style. Like, I'm here to attack my human type dolls. So, lots of freaky stuff growing up. If you are a fellow sufferer of pedophilia or automatonophobia, tell us your experience and how you cope. Did you have a traumatic event, or were you also born with it? Well, thank you for joining me here in the Midnight Library at Dark Academy. I hope you enjoyed this dark and chilling tale and will come back next time for another one. Next time, we'll be talking about the new Salem's Lot. I've already said I like it, but next episode, I'll tell you why. Feel free to tell me why you hate it. That's okay. We don't have to agree all the time. I'm thinking I might dig into some abandoned towns or some vampire lore. We'll see. Don't forget to leave a review for this episode in the comment section below the show notes if you're on Spotify. I'll try to post pictures and other content on social media. I haven't been able to do that in the past, but I'm going to get there. You can also comment there. If you'd like to review the whole show, you can do that on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. It really helps small shows like this one. You can also email me at darkacademypod@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. I'll meet you here next time. Same time, same place. For it's always midnight at the Dark Academy Library. Bye.